This is Terry Bean. Got a great episode of Business Growth Time coming at you with Mr. Chris Brogan. Super excited about that. But before we get into that, I want to talk to my little friend from years and years ago, Janet E. Johnson, where lately the E stands for everywhere. You've been like Little Miss touring the country this year. It's pretty cool.
Everywhere, yes. And I've been doing a lot of Facebook ads, so you probably see me everywhere.
I have noticed a Facebook ad or two. You're targeting me, kid? What's going on with that?
You might be in that mix, yeah.
Well, maybe I should pay attention. I got to set up some Facebook ads today myself. So fun stuff. Speaking of Facebook ads, Chris Brogan, but not a fan page, is with us. Do you still ever see that page, Chris Brogan? I'll introduce you properly in a second.
I don't even think I know how to log into it, is the sad truth.
I just saw it this morning. I just went to it this morning. That's so funny because I'm like, does he have a page? Interesting.
I don't know how to use it. We have Owner Media Group, for the company and all that. And I have a couple other, one for the podcast, I think. But I don't even know how to log into Chris Brogan, but not a fan page. So it's just a rogue entity out there. I don't know.
But did you set it up at one point? Was it actually yours?
Like a million years ago.
A million years ago.
Yeah. Back when you had to call it a fan page. And I was like, I don't want fans. I don't believe in the concept of fans. I think it's a horrible idea. So I just called it Chris Brogan, but not a fan page.
I think that's awesome. That's awesome. So let me back up and properly introduce our guest. For those of you that have been in and near the social media space, at one point I would say you were the undisputed king of social media. I don't know if you would say that, but I would say that. So I just said it. Now I've said it twice. Chris has written 9 books, a few of them best-selling. I will talk about that, working on the 10th, and currently focusing, it seems like all of your energy, maybe not all, but most of your energy toward Owner Media Group, which we're excited to chat a little bit about too, because it helps entrepreneurs get unstuck. And I really love how you're doing it and making it affordable for the people. So I want to definitely touch on that. So anything I should add to your introduction?
No, although it's really funny when we talk about being sort of the once and past king of social media, the one reason why I'm not ever, linked to that sentence anymore is because I felt like an instant child actor, like, oh God, that's the last thing I want anyone to think I'm into.
I can imagine.
Because social media to me has always been a tool to reach people. And my excitement was, wow, we can use this tool to do things. But that would be like, being the best fax marketer in the world. You know what I mean? I'm not down with, that particular association, but for a while that was the horse I rode because, thank you, attention, right?
Because it was the horse that was there.
That's right. And it was just, gee whiz, suddenly we are all creators. We can all make the media. And I think that my 30-year-old youthful self would say, wow, this is great. Look what we can do. And then the last bunch of years has proven that a lot of people didn't really take it the way I wished that it would have gone. And so I've even distanced myself more from the labels just because I'm like, well, never mind, bad horse. Let's get a new horse. We're all good.
Whip it and send it on its way. You know what? And I think you did I don't want to say you did a graceful exit because it's certainly, we still see you in and about the circle. But at that point in time, right, I think other people have risen up and we know some of them and talked to some of them on this show. But what I love about you, and I get a dozen newsletters, and yours is the one that I actually make time to read every single Sunday because it's always packed with good information. But not only are you authentic and genuine, you care enough to actually respond to people. And it's staggering to me because I know email drives most of your business now, 80% or so. So you're great at email marketing, but I have to assume that you're getting hundreds of messages on any given Sunday. He's nodding for those of you listening and nodding vehemently, and he's responding to hundreds of messages. That's so cool to me, man.
My kids, I usually have my kids on the weekends. They're with their mom during the weekdays most times. And my kids always know that Sunday morning is going to be a little bit of split attention because that's like when my newsletter goes out on Sunday, I get lots of the responses right away. And then I get some throughout the week. And every single day I get between, say, 200 and 600 emails to respond to. If you do a minute each on 600 emails, that's 10 hours. So that'll give you a sense of if you gave a minute to each of them. And so And by the way, some days it does not go like that. Some days I get 34 emails and I feel like I could go to the beach and take off all my clothes and swim in the water. But, I'm amazed that so many people don't want that. Like there's so many people like, what would you do if everyone hit reply? And I would I'd be in heaven because,
great.
I'll give you a really weird basic of business is that the people with the money are the people who don't want to feel like they're not seen. Right. And I think that, the stuff that I'm working on now, and it's a sort of relabel of all of the work that I've been doing for years with just better language, is the biggest problem I'm always trying to solve is that companies just want more people to see them, right? We all want to be loved for what we sell. We want more people to love the thing that we do. Humans want that. We want people to love us. And so I just tell companies in different ways, it's really not until it's not until your buyer feels like they're seen and understood that they're going to try to figure out how you fit in their world. And that's what I'm working on.
Love it. I love it. How do we fit into their world, Janet? What do you think?
Well, I come down to, it's very interesting that you're still, I really want to back up a little bit on that you're still really building your brand with email marketing. And you're really not even using necessarily the social. We just talked about a page that you have. I know I just looked at it this morning and it has 8,000 people on it. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, that's 8,000 people I would make use of, So it's very interesting to me because some people say email marketing is dead or email marketing doesn't work anymore. And that's how you're still really making your living off of your email list. Correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's because I think all of these great GWiz tools are awesome, but just think of the mindset you're in when you're using them. So if you're like me and every other human alive, when you're sitting, waiting to pick up a kid from school or something like that, and you pull out your phone and you crack open Facebook or whatever, your natural action inside of Facebook is you're going to thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up. And it's just like Netflix, right? We are a nation and a world now that does this for a living. We just browse, right? Well, email doesn't work that way. Email, it is cruel and bitter. It is like I either see the subject line and I'm in, or I see the subject line and I'm out. I'm done. I'm not even going to pay attention to you. Preview pane, you don't even get that, right? You get the line at the top. So I think in Facebookville, we lean way back. We don't consume with the intention that we're going to take some kind of action. In email, I'm like, I got this thing I think is going to make you money. I'm here saying, if you give me this amount of money, I'm going to make you that amount of money. Let's go do it, right? And so that's really different than watching a video or talking on Facebook or anything. I love all of those tools for one thing, which is I call it attention assets. People need to remember that I'm still alive before they give me their attention or whatever. People have to know that I've got something to sell. So, but business-wise, sales-wise, you could spend as much on Facebook ads as you want, but you're trying to put them to a sales page or a landing page. That's great if they're ready to buy. If they're not, my newsletter is growth the whole time until they are ready to buy.
Yep. Nice.
And wow, you know what? It absolutely is, because I find myself on any given Sunday reading your newsletter and then forwarding it to 3 people or 6 people or 15 people, whoever I think about as I'm reading it, going, man, this is really going to help them. And I remember way back in the day, and I don't know if this is true or even appropriate to talk about, but I'm not always appropriate, so whatever. There was a rumor that you were consulting 2008, 2009 timeframe, and your day rate was huge, like north of $10,000, north of $20,000.
$22,000.
That was the exact number.
It was $22,000. And by the way, I don't command that as often anymore. So now I'm cheap. I'm like 15,000.
Okay.
So what's, I think kind of where you're going though is funny because I work with a lot of big companies and I'm very happy and lucky to work with them. And I command the rate that I deserve because I make them lots more than that. And the kinds of problems I solve for them are fairly expensive problems. But then what's interesting is I give very similar information away for $100 a month. All you have to do is sign up to my little insider group, and for $100, you can get what I charge $15,000 to $20,000 to $50,000 for. And still, people are like, I don't know. I think I should do this other thing. So fine by me, I just put it out there, and if you want it, you can have it.
You're doing it in different formats. Yeah. So I love it because you're actually giving it an option to the smaller people that can't afford necessarily to pay that kind of money. Obviously, that's the bigger brands, the bigger companies.
Right. It turns out not every single one of my customers is Comcast or GE or Titleist or something like that. I don't know why. I keep looking in the mailbox every day, and that's not who's there. But sometimes it's a guy who runs an inn. Sometimes it's somebody who has a fence company. Yep. I've got a burger company down in Boston area. So there's a lot of really swell lifestyle clothing design company. And I love that variety. And what I also love is I feel a little bit like I'm stealing fire from the gods and bringing it down to the mortals sometimes, because sometimes I'll see something in a really big company that would really benefit a small company to pick up. And sometimes they can take those lessons and transfer, and other times it's lost at sea because, a lot of times we're not really ready to learn the lesson anyway. And so it may be a great insight, but they didn't pay last month's payroll, so they're in a different mindset. So that's tricky too.
Let me ask you, you launched this recently, correct? What made you decide to go this route for your program?
So I have a couple different boats in the water. The idea of the Owners Insiders Group is that we were doing a lot of course launches, very much the Jeff Walker product launch formula type method. By the way, I still think it's a great project. I think what he's taught is really great. But I read a really good book a couple of years ago by John Loomer called The Automatic Customer. And it was about membership type stuff, monthly recurring revenues, box clubs, all of those kinds of things. And I was like, oh, that sounds better. Like having a sort of a predictable income sounds better. And in the meantime, a lot of people were saying, well, Chris, here I am. I just dropped $500 on your program, and then you just put out a new program, and it's another $700. And I was like, oh, I would have spent the $700, but I just spent the $500. I wish there was some more consistency and whatever. And I said, well, if you join my membership club, I'll give you every single course I do and all my webinars and all that. And that's how for a long time, it was like $100, you get all the courses and stuff like that. But people believe they don't have any time anymore. And so courses aren't selling the way they used to. And so now we say, well, we've got private group coaching and, oh, by the way, some courses. And so we have a private community and there's usually a few hundred people at any one time in there. And we do a lot of our work just sort of answering one-off types of questions. How do you do this and that? Or how do you make constant contact, do this thing that we think MailChimp should do or whatever? And, sometimes it's really block and tackle stuff like that. And other times it's me pushing people through a project so that they can see that kind of, here's how it goes. And that's how I came to it. John Warwillow's Automatic Customer was probably a really defining moment where I said, I would like this, thanks.
That's interesting. Because I'm in that transition right now, actually. And I've been looking at exactly what you're talking about because I have an online course. And Jon Loomer's teaching this too now. And
oh, sure.
So I've just, the membership keeps coming, and now you're explaining it in the same way. Like you said, the courses don't sell the same as they used to do. People want their hand held a little more, I think.
Right.
They want that accountability is what I've kind of seen. And it sounds like that's what you're offering with your program.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a kick in the ass.
Yeah, no question about that. Well, because it's the other thing is a lot of people have done what I'm sure all of us have done is we buy something and then we don't use it.
Yes.
And we feel like a tool bag. We're like,
yep.
I can't believe I shelled this money out of my own card or whatever, and it's sitting there not being used because I'm so busy. That's everyone's excuse, right?
Yeah.
And I think that one way honestly, it's like this weird, well orchestrated lie. Like, because I'm still going to tell you the same crap I told you in the course. I'll just tell it to you in a different format, right? Yeah. It's not any different. But if they want to, receive the material in a different way, I can help with that. So that's kind of where I ended up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
How did you meet your partner, Rob? Partner and owner, I should say. I don't know
business partner, I'll stress.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, it took me a minute.
Jacqueline's my life partner. So actually, it's an interesting story in that Rob and I knew each other when we were like 14. he'd come over to my house, and I had a Macintosh when they were like brand new, like the first year of Macs. And we would sit around in the basement and draw Van Halen logos and stuff like that. Like that was our thing. And then we moved.
46? Can I ask you that? You're a guy.
One more. I'm 47. I just turned 47 in April.
Because Van Halen logos in 8th grade, dude. That's
damn straight.
You're
right there with us.
All right. Yep. I'll be 47 later this year.
There you go. I'm just warming it up for you. So
I'm younger. Just kidding. Not
yes,
much,
you are.
but a little bit. Like this one.
So, I like that we all have our Yeti mugs. So, the Van Halen thing. So we didn't see each other for a lot of years. Somewhere after 2001, when 9/11 happened, there was kind of a bunch of messaging going around saying everybody that we know safe. You know, some of our friends lived in New York and all that. And I was on some email that he was on or something, and he invited me to his house. I hadn't seen him in a long time. And we became friends again. We didn't live too far away. And somewhere along the process, I was like, man, I'm getting ready. I'm doing this stuff all by myself. I'm running this business. I need some help. And I was originally looking to hire his wife to sort of be a virtual admin for me because she had some cycles. And he was running a nonprofit. He was, running a very successful nonprofit up in Southern Maine. And I said, do you feel like, leaving the world of helping all kinds of children and so you could come be a greedy capitalist with me? And he said, okay. And so he came and started running the business with me. And we have very different disciplines and stuff like that. Rob has a very different mindset than me. So I like that. I like the fact that we, he's a very patient person. He's a coach kind of a person. And I'm more like an advisor kind of a person. I'm like, this is the damn thing, go do it. And he's like, well, what does that make you feel? And then somewhere in between, someone might be served, I guess. So that's how we work.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. Love it. It was December, and it was 2009, give or take a year. Might have been 08, might have been 2010. I tweeted, next year, I'm going to be more jealous of my time. And you not only, I don't know if you retweeted it or just replied, but you said that is exactly what I'm working on too, or something to that extent. Have you achieved that goal?
I am the most successful person in the world at guarding my time and living my life my way.
Love that.
The last bunch of years, we've hit or missed with revenue, and some months it's like, I guess I won't pay myself as much this month, And by the way, it's so funny when entrepreneurs, especially successful ones, no one talks about that ever. They're always like, everything's great. I'm a millionaire all the time. But if you're a real entrepreneur, and I'm calling people out when I say that, if you're real, then you lose it all a bunch of times on the way. And you don't make, you worry about the mortgage payment. Thank the sweet little baby Buddha. I've always hit the mortgage payment. But there are weeks when I say to my kid, I remember once a handful of years ago now, it's better now, but a handful of years ago, I said to my kids one week, so what kind of meal do you think you could eat like 7 times in a row?
Ramen noodles, probably.
One was ramen noodles. The other was mac and cheese or something like that. And I said, perfect. This is great. We're going to go find. And I ate eggs. And we ate, it wasn't a week. It was like 3 days, but we ate like pretty bad until the next check landed. And people don't talk about that, right? But the thing is, in my last book that I wrote, 2 books ago, The Freaks Shall Inherit the Earth, I had 2 whole chapters dedicated to success, because I think that people don't learn how to define success the right way. And they look over the wall and they see somebody jet setting around and they're like, oh, that's success. Or this car, or I just built a new house or something like that. And that's their success. My definition of success is being able to say no to the things I don't want to do. And that is worth way more. Even some weeks when we have to eat ramen, that is worth so much more than the other ways that people go after their success. And so it's important that people know that outlook, because a lot of times people think they're beating themselves up saying they're not successful. But I didn't do a professional anything before this interview, except for I wrote a blog post that may or may not make me some money, period. That's it. And then I looked at YouTube and read articles and stuff like that. And, a lot of other people have been up since 4, hustling and grinding and crushing and all those things. And guess what they did as far as yield goes? Guess what they did? Nothing. You know what I mean? Except they worked a lot harder. They sweat a lot more. And I laid in my bed and thought, I got to go find a shirt because I'm going to talk to Terry and Janet.
To
right?
timestamp this, it's 11:20 a.m. So just
Right.
to give people right. We're not talking at 8:30 in the morning or 6:30.
Right. And some days, by the way, it's the opposite. Some days I work my face off. But every time someone says you're busy, I always say I'm never busy. I'm blessed.
Right.
I'm blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect advice.
Yeah, it is. No, I love it. And I'm one of those crazy people that does work too much, and I admit it, and I've been trying to pull some of the weight off. And my biggest thing, I'm from Minnesota, so Minnesota nice. Saying no is very difficult. And
yes.
that is my number one, rule lately, is trying to just say no to the things that aren't going to benefit or work out, or are going to take too much of your time, because it's, we've got to take care of ourselves too.
You saying Chris has got Massachusetts mean? What are you saying there?
Come on, Minnesota's known for the nice. It's just
they really are. Minnesota's like the other Canada, basically.
That's awesome. All right, I know we're coming up on time here, so I want to be respectful of that. But I told you right before we hit record that one of the segments was going to be, let's talk about a name for the show. So I jotted some notes down. Can I fire these off to you so the three of us can pick this out together?
You go.
All right. So one of them was called Stealing from the Gods. You used that line. I thought that was kind of tough. I don't know that it explains what we're doing, but I liked it. I like Attention Assets as a name. You use that as a phrase that comes up from time to time. I also really like We All Want to Be Loved. These are all words that came out of your mouth today. Mm-hmm. I'm never busy. I'm blessed, I think, is a super important lesson. I went last October and I gave 7 different presentations to a bunch of realtors around here on that topic. Stop telling people you're busy, because nobody wants to deal with busy people, because how are you going to get anything done? So I like that one too. I solve expensive problems. Could be. I thought that was pretty damn good. And maybe we drop the I and it's just solve expensive problems. So I throw those 5 out for your consideration.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the last one sounds really exciting, but I think they'll be depressed because there wasn't enough about that. I mean, we can make a whole episode on that, but
you're welcome back, please. For the love of Pete,
come
back.
You know what's funny about it? Now that we say that in retrospect, I know we're supposed to be ending, but in retrospect, it's really funny because the only difference between expensive problems and cheap problems is knowing to charge what you're worth, and knowing how to be bold enough to really state an opinion that's not everyone else's opinion. I will stun everyone by saying this, but if all you're doing is listening to podcasts and reading other people's books, then you have only other people's opinions. You might as well start working on some stuff you could solve yourself. So I don't know. My vote, I guess, is I'm not busy. I'm blessed, but maybe you will get your worst.
The one I wrote down. That's interesting. No, I think that's.
I think
that's very, very good.
We were going to have you on last year when we were. What was the service that's
Blab,
not?
I think.
It's no. And Chris was like, no Blab.
Google. We started on Google.
He didn't love Google Hangouts either, but Blab in particular. Yeah, since you opened the window for more time, I'm taking it.
Let's do it.
I'm squirrely. You were anti-live broadcasting, and your philosophy on it was pretty bang on. So if you could share that for a minute.
Yeah, I feel awful sometimes because I feel like old man Brogan, because friends will come along and they'll be like, this is amazing. And I'm like, here's why this is a bad idea. And so I just said that, there's a reason we invented VCRs and DVRs, which is because we can't be there at the same time all the time. And so if you're really counting on live viewership, you're dead. It's not don't use the tools, because Facebook Live works great because the video stays up there forever. Yeah. But the idea that live video is the thing is not the thing. And most people use it for really dumb things.
Well, no, that's a good point. If you use it the proper way, yes. And I do agree with you. I think you're right. People don't catch it, but I think it's actually more with the replays and just the Facebook algorithm of the live. The one thing I don't like about Instagram Live is it goes away. It just disappears after. So that I haven't embraced that at all yet because, I don't get it, because there's not going to be as many people on the live if you don't have that to use afterwards. So I think and some of these things are just a phase like Blab, you know, but
Gone.
her waste of
R.I.P.
time.
I had a friend call me up very excitedly and told me that she bought over 1,000 URLs with the word Blab in them.
Somebody just emailed me and asked me if I wanted to buy Blab for Business because we had a group. It was probably her.com.
It might have been.
Might have been July of last year, like weeks before Blab went out. And
Might have been.
in the coffin.
So well, and you don't want to do something like that because right now, if you did Facebook, you can't use it. So you know.
That's what happened to LinkedIn years ago. Vincent Wright had hundreds of LinkedIn URLs, and they all got sucked out of his life. I felt bad for that.
Well, the thing is, you can't. We keep using horse riding analogies, but like you can't ride someone else's horse and think it's yours, right? Like I always tell people that thinking Facebook is your homepage is like going into a hotel room, sticking a lava lamp on the desktop, a nice Oriental rug, and a couple Led Zeppelin posters, and thinking you're in your house. It's not that way.
I'm changing the name. It's now a lava lamp on the desktop. That is the official name of this podcast.
Awesome.
We're aging ourselves here. Now, just FYI, Terry and I went to high school together, so that kind of tells you where we.
Well, that is about what happens, and I get it now.
Yeah, kind of how it goes. Oh, that's too fun.
Well, let's end with. I want to hear just a synopsis of your program and where people can find it and the information so that they can learn more details about it.
Sure. So the thing I sell right now the most is something called Owner Insider. And if you go to owner.media/insider, you can take a look at it. And it's so funny when you said that because I was like, I don't know. I don't know what we say on the page anymore because I just rewrote it. So I'm clicking it live for people watching video. If I look distracted, that's what I'm doing. But owner.media/insider, it talks about how to finally get started. And the whole basic idea is that we help with clarity plus action plus community. And the real basics of it, just not to sound like an ad, so I just closed the page. What we really think that people get stuck on is that they're stuck on the simplest things, and they're stuck on the if-onlys and the I must not know enough or I'm not ready to launch because is about their business in any form. Or they have a business running and it's just not running the way they want it to. We work on that. We tinker with that sort of stuff. So leadership, media making, very specifically email marketing because just so few people are using the tool appropriately. And I happen to have some expertise in it. So I want to help, transmit that. And then I guess ultimately we look for the real problem and solve it. I mean, very much like Rob Van Winkle, the philosopher, sometimes known as Vanilla Ice. If you have a problem, I'll solve it. That's what we're there for.
Great 80s song reference, people. Come on. Like that. Like it a lot. That's awesome. All right, so say the URL again just so they can make sure they get it.
Sorry. Owner, like I own something, owner.media/insider.
That's so cool, man. And great content. And if they want to get on your newsletter, Chris, which they should absolutely be on your newsletter, where do they find that?
If you go to straight old owner.media or chrisbrogan.com, an annoying pop-up will show up and will annoy you into my inbox. And the minute you get the message, you can hit reply right away and talk to me directly.
And he means that sincerely. He's going to even ask you what you're drinking. So
yes,
be ready.
And fizzy pink lemonade is my answer.
Awesome, Janet. I love this guy. I think he's fantastic. I'm so glad we had him on the show. I feel like we learned a lot and got some really fun information. And what you see is what you get. Chris Brogan is the definition of WYSIWYG and just giving. So, Chris, thank you. Janet,
my pleasure.
Bring us home. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can find past podcasts. Sorry, I had my cat here.
With the cats on the brain, yeah.
Cats at businessgrowthtime.com/podcast. And then we also have a Facebook group that you can join. We'd love to have you at businessgrowthtime.xyz, or you can just find it right on Facebook, Business Growth Time. So thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
I feel growthier.
Growthier.